I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
All right, welcome back to the channel. So today I got something here that is really something I've been wanting for a long time. I've sort of developed a love for the 5 and 6 channel amps. So after picking up a Soundstream Rubicon and playing around with it, I realized that I'd like to have one in my daily driver. So I found this amp, and a little backstory. Soundstream is located, well, was located, I should say, about 80-90 miles away from us, and we're in Chico, California. And I would have liked to have, back in the day, paid them a visit. So anyways, I think it's pretty cool. Northern California company, a lot of companies from Northern California. We just did one on Arc Audio. So anyways, this amp is something pretty special, and in a lot of ways. This is a 5-channel amp, and this was something that was kind of emerging in the late 90s, doing these multiple channel, one amp for your system kind of deals. So this amp is a 5-channel amp. It's got 4x50 rated at 12 volts. We'll see what it does at a little bit higher voltage. Then it's got a subwoofer, mono, meaning the 5th channel on it. So this amp will go over some of the specs, but depending on what ohm load you put it in and how you configure it, this thing puts out varying levels of power. So little side story, backstory on this thing. I bought this amp from a guy who assured me that it worked, and he put it away about 20 years ago in a closet. And so, like I always do before I power them up, I open them up, and there was no surprises, or there was surprises in this thing, but it wasn't anything hidden. It was obvious. This is what I found. Yeah, that was not good. So, said, what do I do? So the guy gave me a little bit of money back, and I ended up sending this thing off to get repaired. And I sent it to Stephan Mantz. So Stephan Mantz of Zed Audio. Gentleman's in his 70s, great guy, knowledgeable guy. He did the repairs on this thing, and apparently that's kind of his gig. It's what he does. I can't believe that that's what he does. He builds high-end amplifiers, does some other stuff. Talked to him for quite a bit. Cool dude, super awesome. So maybe in the future, maybe we could do an interview or something with him. I think that'd be super cool. But let's check this thing out a little bit closer, and let's see what we got. Soundstream on the bench, and we're gonna give it a whirl. Really, I'm testing this stuff. This stuff's auditioning for use in my vehicles, which I think is just kind of cool too. I built all this stuff. This is my test bench, to eventually make it into one of my vehicles. And so my Silverado has a Lanzar 6-channel amp, and it's going to probably be replaced with this bad boy. And really, they're all similar. Everybody made one of these things. PPI made a 6-channel, and they were all kind of 50 watts per channel times 6, and the subwoofer channel was like a bridged mono. This is a 5-channel, so they all were dabbling in these multi-channel, 1 amp for your entire system kind of deals. And I like the idea of it. This is probably one of my most useful amps that I have, and that's probably why I invested in getting it fixed. Was because it's worth it. So we're going to test this thing to see if it's better than the Lanzar amp. So the Lanzar amp was putting out about 50 watts a channel on the front and rear stage. And then on the 5 and 6 channel, bridged to 1 ohm. That Lanzar I have is bridged to 1 ohm, was putting out somewhere around 280 watts. So really we're hoping to get some more on the sub stage and maybe some on the high end, more power, see how this thing compares to that thing. So right now we're gonna do kind of a music test, and then we're gonna do the amp dyno. So really what, you know, inspired me was picking up this really cheap Rubicon 4-channel amp, and this thing's a gem, and it does really well on the sub channel, and we'll do a test on it at some point. This thing was just a dirty freaking mess, and it cleaned up real nice.
Please tell me all the bad, make it good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, calling what I'm about, can't put me down. I'll be getting loud, looking every doubt, know what I'm about. I get so loud, it be raining now, I keep making sound, do another round.
Please, Lord, give me a
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient. Hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't even.
All right, I don't know if you guys noticed, but that thing was hitting 500 watts on the sub channel, you know, dynamically. So this thing's running 1 ohm bridged. So this amp's already bridged, okay? So I'm gonna go over some of the specs with you. This thing's pretty amazing. So we're gonna, you know, we've talked about the high current and the high power switch. So it's on the high power switch because it says it can run 1 ohm bridged safely that way. And if you're gonna run lower than 1 ohm, you need to put it on the high current switch. So let's go over those specs. So we got a copy of the original manual, which is so cool. You can find all this stuff. And this amp, I mean, the manual's like 20 pages long. There's a lot of stuff going on. I showed you all the switches and all the stuff. So anyways, so here's the specs on the amp, okay? What we're looking at here. So it's rated at 12 volts on the satellite channels. And then if you look at the subwoofer channels, it's kind of interesting. They kind of switch 12 volts. And then they switch over to 14.4 volts. And you can see the difference between the high current and the high power settings on this thing, right? And here's all the rest of the specs and stuff on it, you know. I mean, this is a clean ass amp. And you know, it's pretty amazing. So let's stick this thing on the dyno and let's see how it does compared to these numbers here. So we got this thing on the dyno on the sub channel. We got 2 ohms. And let's see what she does. So we got, you know, 1,238 watts. We got like 170 something watts at 2 ohms, and this thing's rated at, I believe it's 200 watts at 2 ohms. And this thing is making more power than that. And I'm not sure why. So you know what? We're gonna run the front channels and then we're gonna switch over to the bass head garage and see what the bass head garage meter says. Test the front channels on this thing. Right now we're gonna run at 2 ohms because we've already got it set up for 2 ohms. So let's see how it goes. We got 146 watts, and I could hear something clicking in the amp. Stereo, let's see what she'll do. $87, not well, almost, I think it was 87 watts to clipping. Not bad, not bad. I think it's rated at 50 at 12 volts, but we were at 13.6, so
probably made about what rated power was.
You know, the tests were kind of inconclusive. I think the dynamic test really showed the power of this thing. And, you know, this is actually a couple months after I did those amp dynos. And I'm just a little afraid to run this thing. I've got quite a bit of money in this amp. I think I want to say that I'm about $200 into purchasing this amp. And I think it was about $380 to fix the amp. So the transistors were blown out of this thing, had to rewind a couple of the coils that you saw burn up in this thing. There was some resistors and stuff, so you know, this thing was pretty beat. Had to replace a bunch of the switches on the bottom of it. And so anyways, so this amp's really putting out some serious power, and it's really a neat amp. If you've watched any of our component speaker tests, this is kind of one of the main amps that I use a lot. And this thing's cosmetically is in pretty good shape. And one of the things that I didn't really show on here
is on the bottom of these amps, they have switches and all kinds of stuff, modes and things going on. We've got what I referred to as the high current and the high power switch. And what this does is it changes the rail voltage so you can run it safely at a low ohm load. And you go, well, why would you put it on a low ohm load if it makes less power? Well, you could run more drivers. So that's kind of what you did back in the day. You ran lots of speakers and low ohm loads. So it's got a bunch of stuff here where you can bridge them and set different crossover points and ranges and stuff like that. You know, the circuitry in these amplifiers was pretty complex, and you know, some of it I don't know how gimmicky it was, but the technology that if you read the owner's manual is pretty cool. So anyways, I'm happy to own this thing, and it's been fun playing with it and using it, and it really puts out a lot of power on that sub channel. I'm really impressed, and like I said, this is going to replace that Lanzar amp that I have in my truck. And you know, the Lanzar one's pretty impressive too. I mean, it's kind of a similar deal, but it's a 6-channel, and it's actually got a high current channels 5 and 6, and it'll run 5 and 6 bridged down to 1 ohm, which is like a half an ohm stereo. So that's pretty brutal, you know. So anyways, you know, there was some pretty neat tests, and these were amplifiers, you know, back in these days that, you know, were your whole system amplifiers. I like you know, just the simplicity of wiring in just one amplifier. I think that's pretty cool. So anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and pick up one of our channel stickers. These things are cool. So anyways, one of the things we noticed was that we're getting a lot of return viewers, and I mean a really high rate of return viewers, and you're not subscribed. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I really appreciate the comments, and I like what you guys are putting in there for the comments and stuff, especially on the speaker stuff, because you know, we're actually gonna test some of the speakers that you suggested, you know, doing. So anyways, we'll catch you next time.